Recorded Books and One-Click Digital present The Life She Wants by Robyn Carr. Narrated by Thérèse Plummer. Prologue. When the truth became brutally evident, she wondered how it had escaped her for so long. Shay Compton knew that her marriage to Richard looked like a fairy tale to many, and though she'd loved Richard, she'd always felt something was lacking. She couldn't put her finger on it. It was so vague. Richard was good to her, generous, though he was an extremely busy man, and soon after their wedding, he became remote, distant. She told herself mega-rich brokers don't sit around the house coddling their young wives. They work 16-hour days. They're never far from their phones. They seem to command multitudes. And if a person, even his wife, wanted to get on his calendar, she had to plan ahead. So whenever she felt that something was wrong with her marriage, she'd blame herself. When Richard's lawyers began to meet with him to discuss problems with the SEC, she barely noticed. When she asked him about media reports that his company was being investigated for securities fraud, he calmly said, "Slow news day." Then he lectured her. "Pay attention to the financial pages. It happens every day. Several multi-billion-dollar banking and investment corporations are currently being investigated. The SEC has to justify its existence somehow. I resent the time suck, but it won't last long." She didn't worry about it, though she did pay attention as he suggested. Of course, he was right. There were many investigations, steep fines, reorganizations, buyouts, companies shutting down. The banking and investment world was under very close scrutiny. Then he said they had to appear in court, he and his legal team. He wanted her by his side and asked if she could get it on her schedule, and she laughed. "I'm not the one with the full schedule, Richard." He smiled his perfect, confident, calm smile. He touched her cheek. "You won't have to do or say anything." The morning they were to appear in court, he'd noticed the suit she laid over the chair and said, "Perfect." Then he went into his bathroom. Sitting at her dressing table, she was smoothing lotion on her legs. She heard the water running in his sink. And then she heard, "Son of a bitch." He'd cut himself shaving and swore. Not unusual for him. But she met her own eyes in the mirror. Suddenly, she knew. She'd been living a lie, and everything said about him was true. Her husband was a cold, calculating liar and thief. And she couldn't pretend anymore. Chapter 1. It's the little things that will break you. Shay had been thinking about that a lot lately. She stood strong while everything was taken from her, while she was virtually imprisoned at a little motel near the Jersey Shore, while her husband was buried, while the media spun a sordid tale of deceit and thievery that implied she'd been aware, if not complicit, in her late husband's crimes. Stood strong. But when the heel broke on her best sling-back pumps and she tumbled down the courthouse steps, she collapsed in tears. The photo was printed everywhere, even People magazine. When she was asked to please stop coming to her yoga studio, she thought she would die of shame and cried herself to sleep. No one had ever explained to her that the last straw weighed almost nothing. Everything in her Manhattan apartment and vacation home had been auctioned off. She packed up some practical items to take with her and donated some of her casual clothing to women's shelters. Of course, anything of value, the art, crystal, china, silver, and jewelry had been seized quickly. Even items she could prove had nothing to do with Richard's business, including wedding gifts from friends. They took her designer clothing. Her Vera Wang wedding gown was gone. She was allowed to keep a couple sets of good sheets, towels, one set of kitchenware, some glasses, a few placemats, napkins, and so on.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?